Nepal contains 8 of the 14 peaks on the planet whose height exceeds 8,000 meters. Everest, the highest point on Earth, rises here. Here too runs the Kali Gandaki Gorge, the deepest canyon in the world, whose depth surpasses 5,500 meters. But there is something about Nepal that almost no one talks about. In the mountains of this country, just a few kilometers from the Chinese border, the only functioning medieval walled city in the world still stands today, surrounded by clay walls 6 meters high. And on the banks of the sacred Bagmati River lies the largest Hindu cremation complex on the planet, where the flames have not been extinguished for several millennia. Today we set out on a mysterious journey through the lands of Nepal. In the region of Upper Mustang, 10 kilometers from the Chinese border, at an elevation of 3,800 meters above sea level, there stands a settlement. It is neither ruins nor an open-air museum exhibit. It is a living, functioning city, encircled by a clay wall 6 meters high. Within its boundaries stand approximately 850 houses, monasteries, a ruler's palace, and several thousand inhabitants. Lo Manthang, that is what this city is called, known also as the Last Forbidden Kingdom. It was founded in 1380 by decree of Nepal. Its walls are built of local clay and stone, using the same technique that was employed back in the 10th century. In all 640 years of its existence, the fortress has never once been taken by storm by any foreign conqueror. It is the only surviving walled Tibetan city on the entire planet, and this at a time when Tibet itself has changed enormously. After Tibet came under Chinese administration in the 1950s, Lo Manthang became the last place where Tibetan Buddhist culture survived in almost unaltered form. The ruler's palace, 4 stories tall, was built without a single nail, only clay, stone, and wooden ceiling beams. The ruler of Mustang, the 25th monarch of his dynasty, lost his official title in 2008 when Nepal was proclaimed a republic. Yet he continues to live in this palace to this day and remains the spiritual and cultural center of local society. Right up until 1992, the Mustang region remained completely closed to foreign visitors. Nepalese authorities feared that Tibet might use this territory to establish unwanted channels of communication with the outside world. For 40 years of isolation, Lo Manthang was frozen in the Middle Ages, without tourists, without change, without outside pressure. When the borders were finally opened, the world was confronted with a genuine time capsule from the 10th century. In the valleys surrounding Lo Manthang, the vertical cliff faces are riddled with thousands of openings at heights ranging from 15 to 50 meters above the ground. These apertures are set into completely sheer rock faces with no visible ladders or paths leading up to them. These are the so-called sky caves of Mustang. Approximately 10,000 man-made cavities carved directly into the rock at heights that are practically impossible to reach without specialized mountaineering equipment. The Cave of Shijajong is a 5-story complex comprising nearly 100 rooms, stairway passages, and a natural opening in the ceiling that served as a ventilation shaft. In the Cave of Nifu, columns, corridors, and wall paintings have been preserved. Inside these cavities, researchers have found ancient manuscripts, small figurines, mummified remains, and ritual objects more than 2,000 years old. Certain caves date to 1,000 years before the Common Era, meaning they came into existence long before Buddhism arrived in this region. How the builders managed to reach the height of a 5-story building on a completely sheer rock face remains one of the great unsolved questions of Himalayan archaeology. According to one version, the ground level in the valleys was once considerably higher. The caves were carved at a relatively modest height, and the soil subsequently subsided. According to another version, wooden scaffolding or rope systems were used, leaving no trace behind. Of the 10,000 caves, only a handful have been thoroughly studied. In 2024, UNESCO completed a preliminary assessment of the possibility of inscribing this site on the World Heritage List. On the banks of the Bagmati River in Kathmandu stands Pashupatinath, the largest Hindu temple complex in the world associated with the cremation rite. The main sanctuary is dedicated to Shiva in his form as Pashupati, the lord of all living creatures. The earliest references to a sanctuary on this site date to 400 CE, while the present temple building was erected in the 15th century. The funeral pyres on the ghats, the stone steps descending directly to the water, burn here without interruption. And this is no figure of speech. Cremations are performed daily on the specially designated ghat platforms, and this tradition has continued unbroken for millennia. Fire in this place is not a symbol but a literal, constant ritual fact. The Bagmati River is held sacred by Hindus in the same way as the Ganges. The ashes of the departed are committed to its waters, for it is here that earthly life ends and the next stage of the soul's journey begins. According to Hindu tradition, foreign visitors are permitted to observe the rites only from the opposite bank of the river, while entry to the main temple is permitted exclusively to those who profess Hinduism. In 2015, an earthquake destroyed part of the complex's auxiliary buildings, but the main sanctuary held. Within the walls of Lo Manthang stands a 15th century monastery, Luri Gompa. Its central hall is considered one of the largest monastic halls in all the Himalayas. The walls are covered with frescoes from the same 15th century, created by masters who were simultaneously working on the paintings of the Potala Palace in Lhasa. The same artists, a unified style, embodied in two key points of the Tibetan world. But there is a detail that makes Tubchen unique on a global scale. Here is kept one of the few, and possibly the only surviving three-dimensional mandala, not painted but modeled in clay, pigments, and precious materials. It is a complex architectural model of the Buddhist universe rendered in 3 dimensions. Such three-dimensional mandalas were once widespread in Tibetan Buddhism, but most have perished due to political upheavals, earthquakes, or simply under the effects of time. The Tubchen mandala survived precisely because Lo Manthang remained isolated from the outside world for decades. Monks still live and pray in the monastery today. Morning prayers in halls adorned with 15th century paintings are not a staged performance for tourists. They are a living tradition more than 600 years old. Several hours' journey from Lo Manthang, in a lateral gorge, there is a cliff. At a height of approximately 100 meters above the ground, in a niche of this cliff, nestles the monastery of Luri Gompa, built in the 10th century. It clings literally to the vertical rock face, much like the famous tiger's nest in Bhutan, though far less known than its Bhutanese counterpart. It can be reached only on foot, along a narrow path carved directly into the stone, and the final meters of the ascent become something close to rock climbing. In the monastery's central hall stands a chorten, a Buddhist stupa adorned with painted figures. The walls are covered with some of the earliest examples of mural painting in the entire Mustang region, dated to the 15th century. The rock formations surrounding the monastery, natural sandstone pillars and arches, create a landscape that local Buddhists regard as the dwelling place of protective spirits. This is precisely why this location was chosen for the monastery's construction. The difficulty of the ascent guaranteed the solitude necessary for meditative practice, while the natural terrain itself created a sense of protection. A few kilometers south of Lo Manthang, in a secluded canyon among twisted trees, stands the Temple of Lo Gakar. According to local legend, this is the first Tibetan Buddhist temple built in the kingdom of Lo. Its construction is attributed to an Indian mystic who came to this land and laid the foundations of the temple on the very spot where, as tradition has it, a demoness was defeated. The legend states, "Beneath the temple's foundations lies the heart of this demoness, and as long as the temple stands, she cannot return to life." The local population takes this legend entirely literally. The temple is surrounded by trees, and there is almost no wind in this place, even though the surrounding lands of Mustang are renowned for their constant strong winds. This lends the temple grounds an unusual stillness. The age of the temple itself remains a matter of dispute. Some sources cite the 7th to 9th centuries, while others believe the present structure to be considerably younger, though the site itself was used for religious rites long before the building was constructed. On a hill above Kathmandu rises a stupa with a gilded spire. On each of its four sides are painted eyes, large and serene, gazing simultaneously north, south, west, and east. This is Swayambhunath, which translates as the self-created. According to legend, several thousand years ago a self-manifested radiance emerged from a lotus on this hill, and it was on the site of this marvel that the stupa was subsequently built. It is one of the oldest Buddhist stupas in the world. The earliest written records of its existence date to the 5th century CE, though tradition holds that this place was considered sacred as far back as 3,000 years before the Common Era. The four pairs of eyes on the stupa are by no means a decorative element. They are the all-seeing eyes of the Buddha's wisdom, turned toward all 4 points of the compass, symbolizing that there is no point on earth from which the Buddha has turned away. In the lower part of the complex stand hundreds of prayer wheels. Pilgrims circumambulate the stupa clockwise and spin them. Each turn of a wheel is held to be equivalent to reading the prayer inscribed upon it. In 2015, an earthquake damaged part of the complex's auxiliary structures, but the stupa itself held firm, and restoration work was completed by 2018. Nepal is a country where the Himalayas represent not merely a mountain system, but a genuine archive. Every gorge, every cliff, and every monastery is a separate chapter of a book written in a language that humanity is only beginning to learn to read. And somewhere in the caves above the valley of Lo, manuscripts, frescoes, and artifacts still await their future researchers. Thank you for watching.